It doesn't come when you're tense. It doesn't come when you're chasing. It comes when you exhale. You weren't meant to strive for your desires like a beggar at the gates of heaven. You were meant to receive as naturally as the sun receives the morning sky. But in the noise of your day and the ache of waiting, you forget. You forget that the state of ease is the most magnetic state in existence. That the universe responds not to your words but to your nervous system, to the soft hum beneath your thoughts, to the vibration behind your smile. And what is that vibration? It is the feeling of already done, of already being, already having, already living as the one who knows the wish is fulfilled. Not because it showed up on your doorstep, but because you stopped needing it to. There is a difference between needing and choosing, between hoping and relaxing into certainty. This isn't about passivity. It's about trust. When you imagine your desire, whether it's the love, the success, the healing, and then let go, you are telling the universe, I remember who I am. You are returning to stillness. And it is in stillness that creation begins. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. That is not just comfort. That is instruction. Stillness is not the absence of movement. It's the presence of knowing. Think back. The moment you finally stopped checking your phone for the call, it came. The instant you gave up the chase for love, someone appeared. Not because the world suddenly cooperated, but because your energy became soft, open, allowing. When you relax, truly relax, you shift from the self that begs to the self that believes. That's when you stop watering the soil with worry. You stop poking the seed to see if it's growing. You trust the laws. You trust the root. You trust the unseen. Most people think manifestation is doing more scripting, more techniques. But what if it's about undoing, unclenching the jaw, slowing the breath, and resting in the memory of who you are? You are not the version of you that suffers through effort. You are the version that remembers it's already finished. Success stories don't happen because people obsess over the outcome. They happen when someone drops into the version of themselves that already has it, and then lets go. One woman imagined being in her dream apartment. She smelled the wood floors, felt the morning sun on her skin. She didn't repeat it 1,000 times. She simply felt it fully and relaxed. Within weeks, she was led to the exact unit she had imagined, and it wasn't even listed online. Coincidence? Not to the one who understands. Creation responds not to the effort, but to the state. And the state of peace is the most creative of all. When doubt creeps in, and it will, don't resist it. Don't panic. Don't scramble to fix it. Just notice. Notice the tension in your chest. Notice the breath that's gone shallow, and return. Return to the body. Return to the end. Return to the calm. Because what you desire is not waiting to be earned. It's waiting to be allowed. Let it come. Let it rise. Let it unfold. Not with force, but with faith. Relax, and you will manifest anything you desire. Even now, something within you is softening. The clench behind your eyes, the tension in your shoulders. It begins to melt. Not because life has changed, but because you have shifted. That is the secret. The world doesn't move first. You do. And yet, so often we wait. We wait for the sign, the text, the job offer, before we give ourselves permission to breathe. But true manifestation begins when you no longer require proof. It begins when you stop testing God and start trusting the God within. The moment you rest in the assumption that all is well, the bridges of incident quietly rearrange themselves. People move, circumstances bend, not by your control, but by your alignment. Neville said it plainly. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and let it clothe you. Let it cover your doubts. Let it silence your need to explain. Let it soothe the voice that says, but what if it doesn't happen? Because that voice will come. It's the echo of an old self. The one who thought effort was proof of worth. The one who believed struggle made it noble. But now you know better. Now you know that the only thing you must do is enter the state of being. Think of a time you relaxed so deeply into a moment, a bath, a walk, a sunset, that the world faded behind you. That was the state. You weren't working for anything. And yet, in that openness, ideas came, clarity rose, and sometimes manifestations followed without you even trying. One man shared how he imagined a new opportunity, but nothing came. So he let go. He surrendered the timeline, dropped the obsession, and took a day off. That very evening, a client he hadn't heard from in over a year reached out, offering him more than he originally desired. It wasn't his effort that made it happen. It was his relaxation that made him available. You see, the need to control is born from fear, a fear that if you don't push, it won't come. But pushing implies it's far away, and all things, even the ones unseen, respond to how you see yourself. Do you see yourself as the one waiting, or the one being? If you are waiting for it, you're still separate from it. If you are being it, It's already yours. That's why feelings are not just sensations. They are declarations. Each one tells the universe who you believe you are. I am safe. I am chosen. I am abundant. These are not affirmations. They are identities. And when you wear them like a second skin, life has no choice but to reflect them back. For as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Proverbs 23:7. Not in his words, not in his rituals, but in his heart. So tonight as you lie back and feel the weight of your body sink into the mattress, let go of needing to fix anything. You don't need to prove that you're worthy. You don't need to repeat 1,000 techniques. You don't need to track the evidence. You just need to feel. Feel the ease of already having it. Feel the safety of being chosen. Feel the stillness of a soul that knows its worth. And if your mind drifts, let it. If you feel anxious, be gentle. Even doubt can be held in love. You are not meant to be perfect. You are meant to return, again and again, to the state where all is done, and nothing must be chased. From that place, all things are added. So rest now. You are already becoming what you desire. You're just relaxing into the truth of it. It's easy to forget when the days feel long, when the notifications buzz louder than your intuition, and your goals whisper beneath the noise of comparison. You begin to wonder if the stillness is working. You wonder if your surrender means you've given up. But the truth is far more radical. In the silence, you are becoming magnetic. In the pause, things are rearranging, not through force, but through your state of being. One woman described how she had tried everything to attract love. Books, courses, journals filled with intentions. But she kept meeting versions of her old self, mirrored in others. Men who didn't see her. People who didn't stay. It wasn't until she stopped searching and sat with herself, truly sat, that she saw the one common denominator. She didn't feel chosen. So she stopped dating and started being. She walked as though love were with her. She smiled as though someone adored her already. She cooked for one, but set the table for two. And 3 weeks later, in the most mundane moment, a grocery aisle, love found her, effortlessly, naturally, because she had already become what she once chased. This is the essence of relaxed creation. You don't manifest from the tension of longing. You manifest from the knowing of having. It may feel counterintuitive at first, especially when the world tells you to hustle, to grind, to go get it. But the soul does not hustle. The soul remembers. It remembers who you are beneath all the striving. It remembers the still point within, where nothing is missing, and everything flows toward you with grace. Jesus said, "Therefore I say unto you, whatever things you ask when you pray, believe that you receive them, and you will have them." Mark 11:24. Notice the instruction is not to beg, not to plead, but to believe that you already have. It's not a request. It's a posture, a state, a vibration, a knowing. When you walk into a room believing you are seen, people respond accordingly. When you sit in silence believing that wealth is yours, ideas, contacts, and open doors find you. When you relax into the knowing that your body is healing, the cells reorganize in harmony. This is not delusion. This is alignment, because everything that is ever made manifest must first be felt in the invisible realm. So when you ask yourself, am I doing enough? Pause and ask instead, what am I being right now? Am I being anxious? Am I being hopeful? Or am I being complete? No mask, no performance, no frantic effort, just the quiet confidence of one who knows the truth is already unfolding. Even when nothing seems to be moving, the roots are deepening. Your inner world is building momentum. So if today felt off, that's okay. If you scrolled too long, forgive yourself. If you doubted, you're still allowed to receive, because your power is not in being perfect. Your power is in returning to the center, returning to the breath, returning to the state, returning to the gentle truth you already are. There's nothing to chase. Tonight let your body be soft. Let your mind drift like clouds across a quiet sky. Let the energy of already done hold you. And know this, you are not manifesting your desires. You are manifesting your assumptions about yourself. So assume gently, assume tenderly, assume from rest, not reaction. You are not behind. You are not late. You are learning to live from the end, not in theory, but in feeling. And that changes everything. You do not need to convince the universe. You are the universe, dreaming in form, and your desires are not outside of you. They are invitations to return to who you truly are. There's a quiet power in dropping the effort, in letting go of the mental gymnastics, in ceasing the chase for signs, numbers, or proof, because those who already have, they don't search, they settle, not into resignation, but into knowing. He once told a story, a man who imagined being promoted. He did not write it down 100 times. He did not light a candle or chant affirmations into the night. He simply imagined the scene, his co-workers shaking his hand, his wife smiling at the news, his body relaxed with the pride of someone fulfilled. Then he went about his life. He did not check for progress. He did not worry the dream into existence. He wore the promotion in his energy, and within a short span it arrived. Why? Because he wasn't trying to get. He was being the one who already had. This is the gentle paradox. When you stop needing it, it can finally come. Not because need is wrong, but because need implies separation. And separation is an illusion. We were never told to toil. We were told to believe. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. Still, not as in frozen, but as in confident. Still, not as in doing nothing, but as in moving without fear. Still, because your assumption is more powerful than all the hustle you could ever do. This world will test your faith in that stillness. It will tempt you to reach, to obsess, to perform. But nothing can outperform the right state of being. When you feel abundance, your posture changes. When you feel loved, your voice softens. When you feel chosen, you stop begging for validation. It's not always easy to live from that place, especially when you've been disappointed, especially when the world has shown you the opposite. But you're not here to react. You're here to create. And that creation happens in conscious rest. Close your eyes tonight and remember what it felt like when you first fell in love. The butterflies, the ease, the joy. Now, bring that same energy to your dream. Hold it like it's already yours. Not with tension, not with bargaining, but with surrender, with thankfulness. What if you could thank life now, before it delivers? What if you could smile before the text comes? Feel peace before the account grows. Breathe deeply before the apology arrives. That is what relaxes your nervous system. That is what collapses time. Because your state does not wait for evidence. Your state creates it. You may stumble tomorrow. You may check your phone again, or fall back into doubt. That's all right. The return is the miracle. The return to the end. The return to wholeness. The return to relaxed faith. You do not have to be in a perfect mood. You just have to know where home is. And home is the feeling of already having it. Let that feeling tuck you in tonight. Let it whisper over you, like a warm breeze, gently telling your body it's safe now. You can rest. There is no need to rush what's already yours, and nothing real can be taken from you. You are not waiting on the world. You are waiting to remember, and you are closer now than you've ever been. Sometimes the greatest leap forward begins with a simple breath, a slow exhale that tells your body, I don't have to fix it all right now. This is where the real shift begins. Not in strategy, but in state. You see, the world has taught you to chase, to earn, to strive and to hustle as if you were separate from the source of what you desire. But desire is not a command to struggle. It's an echo of what is already written. A memory, flickering inside you, trying to guide you home. We've been taught to tense up around dreams, to fear the timing, to analyze the odds, to wonder if we're worthy yet. But manifestation doesn't respond to pressure. It responds to presence, and presence lives in relaxation. I've seen people heal decades of scarcity not by force but by finally trusting. One woman imagined her dream home for years. She obsessed over the market, watched videos, created vision boards, then cried herself to sleep believing it was out of reach. But something shifted when she stopped needing it to arrive on her timeline. She began to live as if. She stopped scrolling listings and started lighting candles in her tiny apartment, making tea like she was already in her sanctuary, feeling the quiet joy of being home within herself. And when she stopped tracking the clock, the house appeared, in the perfect neighborhood, at a price she never imagined. A friend connected her without her even searching. How? Because she became the woman who already had it, and the world had no choice but to catch up. That's the power of a relaxed assumption. Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it and it will be yours. Mark 11:24. It doesn't say believe it's coming. It says believe you have received. There is no command in scripture more radical, more misunderstood, and yet, how freeing it is. To stop trying to force fruit from the seed. To trust the law is working even when you can't see roots breaking through the dark. You were never meant to live in anxiety. You were meant to live in assumption, not arrogant assumption, but humble, joyful expectancy. A childlike knowing, the kind that watches the rain fall and says, of course the flowers will bloom. Still it's normal to slip, to wake up heavy, to feel like nothing is changing, to scroll past someone else's win and wonder if you're being left behind. Let that be okay. Even the most radiant creator forgets sometimes. Even those who teach this truth stumble into doubt. But the beauty is you don't need to hold the state forever. You only need to return to it, again and again. Like returning to a favorite room in your house, one where the light always feels just right. Even now, you can come back. Relax your shoulders. Feel the weight lift from your chest, sink into the memory of how it feels to be fulfilled. Not when you get it, not someday. Now, feel what it would be like to already be loved, already be secure, already be enough. Your mind may resist, it may whisper, but what about reality? And yet you are creating reality. You are not here to react to facts, you are here to revise them from within. Every time you relax into the end, you rewrite the future. Every time you rest in the assumption, you collapse time. And when the world finally reflects what you knew all along, you'll smile and say, I knew it when I stopped trying so hard. So tonight, don't reach for it. Rest as if it's already done. You'll be surprised what appears when you stop looking. And you'll remember manifestation was never about becoming someone new. It was about remembering who you already are. It's strange, isn't it? How the mind clings to struggle as if it was safety, as if tightening your grip, analyzing every detail, checking again and again somehow ensures it all turns out right. But the deeper truth is this: the more tightly you hold, the more you delay the arrival. Because holding on is the language of fear. Releasing, that's the language of trust. And trust is magnetic. A man once told me he had been visualizing his ideal job for nearly a year. He did everything right, imagined the office, repeated affirmations, kept a journal of wins, but each time he got close to a final interview, it fell apart, and still he persisted. But it wasn't until he stopped pushing, until he walked into his imagination with no more urgency, just peace, that everything shifted. He stopped needing the job to prove something. He stopped begging the world to reward him. He simply imagined the feeling of waking up and loving his life. He played with the scene gently, like a painter adding soft strokes to a canvas. And within 2 weeks, an old connection called out of the blue and offered him a role, one that matched his imagined office down to the very window view. It wasn't the techniques that changed. It was him. He was no longer trying to manifest. He was living from it. That's the power of letting go of the weight and leaning into the already. You see, so many get caught in the loop of trying to feel it, trying to get it right, trying to change the state. But trying always implies you don't yet have it. And the law does not give you what you try to become, only what you are. You become it not by force but by feeling it naturally true. Not perfectly, not all the time, just enough that it feels like a memory instead of a fantasy. And God calleth those things which be not as though they were. Romans 4:17. That's the essence of creation. Not hoping, not waiting, calling it as if it already is. It can feel ridiculous at first, to walk through your day imagining your love when you feel ignored, to speak abundance over your life when the numbers don't add up. But this isn't delusion, it's devotion. Devotion to the world you're choosing, not the one your senses report. Still, you'll be tempted. Tempted to check your phone for signs. Tempted to ask, why isn't it here yet? Tempted to measure your worth by outer movement. Let that be okay too. Doubt doesn't ruin the process. It only asks to be soothed. When fear rises, you don't need to silence it. You just need to soften your attention. Turn inward, not to argue, but to remember. Remember that your imagination is not idle. It is divine. When you close your eyes and feel the wish fulfilled, you're not escaping reality. You're shaping it. You're entering the only room that matters, the one where the future is formed. And when you dwell in that inner world with love, with ease, with quiet confidence, you magnetize the outer to reflect the inner. Because the outer world is not here to teach you who you are. It's here to echo what you've already decided. So relax, not because it's passive, but because it's powerful. Relax into the knowing. Relax into the scene. Relax into the role you've already claimed. And when doubt creeps in again, as it surely will, don't fight it. Smile gently. Whisper to yourself, I already have it. I already am it. I already know. That's the quiet power of faith. It doesn't shout. It doesn't plead. It rests and watches the world rearrange itself accordingly. Let it. There's a moment, quiet but powerful, when you stop waiting for proof and start walking in peace. Not because you have all the answers. Not because you've mastered every thought, but because something in you decides that the inner feeling is enough, that stillness is not empty. It's full, rich with unseen formation. And here's the truth most skip over. It's not the perfect visualization, not the exact number of seconds you loop the scene. It's the energy beneath it. If you feel calm, grateful, settled into the scene like it's already happened, the seed is planted. People often ask, what if I don't feel it? What if my mind resists? Let it. You don't have to force belief like a hammer. You invite it like a friend. You sit with the feeling of having, even if just for a breath, a flicker, a second that feels real. And that second is more powerful than hours of mental noise. Remember the woman who had longed for reconciliation, a past relationship, years behind her, had never quite healed in her heart. She tried every method. Letters she never sent, affirmations that left her tired, visualizations that felt like work. One day she stopped. She lit a candle, closed her eyes, and imagined only a quiet moment. No apology, no fireworks, just sitting across from him, both smiling, whole, without words. She didn't beg the image to come true. She simply felt peace, and that peace became her new dwelling place. 2 months later, a message arrived without warning, the exact tone she had imagined. But by then, the miracle wasn't the message. It was the woman she had become in waiting. She had fallen in love with her inner calm. That's the real power. You don't manifest because you need something to complete you. You manifest because you've remembered you were never broken. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. Stillness is not inactivity. It's confidence. Stillness says, my world is rearranging, even if I can't see it yet. Stillness says, the version of me who already has it is alive within me now. You don't need to silence your mind. You just need to trust your being. Because it's not the loudest voice that manifests. It's the most embodied one. Even in doubt, even when tired, that version of you, the relaxed, grounded, fulfilled self, already exists. And when you let that version be the one who thinks, speaks, moves, everything aligns. It may not happen tomorrow, but the delay isn't denial. It's orchestration. Some paths are clearing. Some doors are unlocking. Some people are still becoming the version that will meet you in your scene. And that's okay. Your job isn't to control the how. It's to remain. Remain in the feeling. Remain in the tone. Remain in the assumption. Yes, the world may tempt you back into old stories. You'll have days where nothing feels different, where doubt dresses up like logic and tells you to be realistic. Smile at it, because you're not manifesting from the world. You're manifesting through it. The outer is just a reflection of what you've already declared to be true inside. So if you catch yourself spiraling, don't panic. You haven't ruined anything. You're just being called to rest again. Rest in the scene. Rest in the end. Rest in the version of you who no longer waits. Not because it's a trick, but because it's the truth. You've already been heard. You've already been answered. Now allow the bridge to unfold with gentle faith and a relaxed heart. There is a moment quiet as breath when you stop asking, is it working? And begin knowing. It is done. That's not blind faith. That's embodiment. It doesn't scream. It doesn't hustle. It hums. It hums softly like a lullaby. Beneath the noise of circumstance. Beneath the itch to check, to control, to do. You were taught that desire requires force, that your job is to prove you're worthy, to hustle for blessings, chase results, fight doubt with logic. But manifestation is not earned, it's claimed. And what you claim through feeling cannot be taken. A man once shared his story. He had longed for financial freedom, not wealth for display, but a calm kind of prosperity, freedom to give, freedom to breathe. He imagined checks, sure. He pictured zeros. Yes, but nothing shifted. Until one night he changed the picture. He stopped imagining numbers. He started imagining himself smiling while paying bills, laughing while grocery shopping, opening his laptop and feeling lightness instead of pressure. He stopped asking, where's the money? And started being the man who had already received. And slowly, with no fireworks, clients returned, ideas clicked, a sense of flow returned. Not because he worked harder, but because he stopped resisting ease. He relaxed. The bridge didn't build itself in panic. It rose quietly beneath his calm persistence. When you relax, you drop the illusion that something out there needs to shift first. You stop worshipping time as the ruler of your desires. You stop seeing delays as threats. You begin understanding. Time is not against you. Time obeys you. You are not late. You are not behind. You are becoming visible to the reality that was always waiting for your alignment. This is why Jesus said, therefore I say unto you, what things soever ye desire, when ye pray, believe that ye receive them, and ye shall have them. Mark 11:24. Believe that you receive, not tomorrow, not later, now, not with clenched fists, with open hands. That's what relaxation really is, the soul's way of saying, I already hold it in unseen form. Yes, the ego will tempt you to act out of fear, to rush, to beg, to prove. But the soul creates through stillness, through inner warmth, through the tone of already. There will be days when you forget, days when the 3D looks loud and you feel small. Those are not failures. They are invitations to return to the place where creation begins. Close your eyes. Can you feel the relief of your wish fulfilled? Not the scene, not the words, just the tone of it. The soft buzz of being whole. That is the language of God. That is how the invisible responds. Not to effort, but to embodiment. You don't have to get it right every time. You don't need perfect focus. You don't even need full belief. You need willingness. You need stillness. You need to feel, even lightly, as if your heart is already home. So relax, and when fear visits, don't argue. Welcome it, hold it, then softly return to the version of you who rests in the end, the one who does not chase, the one who allows, the one who knows the dream is already clothed in flesh, and just walking towards you now, as you stay in peace. There is something sacred about the moment you stop demanding answers and simply rest in the knowing that all is unfolding. It's the moment your identity shifts from seeker to receiver. And in that stillness, something deep within says, I don't need proof anymore, I am the proof. This is not about pretending. It's not about smiling through pain or bypassing fear. It's about letting yourself be human and loved anyway. We live in a world of endless striving, notifications, comparisons, metrics of success that make us forget we were born worthy. So it's no wonder manifestation feels like something else to achieve, another trophy, another test. But manifestation is not performance. It's permission, permission to return to your truest state, rested, open, certain without needing certainty. You don't have to be perfect to manifest. You only have to be present. And when you're present, you notice subtle things. You notice how peace feels in the body, how small joys, a cup of tea, a walk without a goal, begin to whisper the same message as your desire. It is already here. You just haven't caught up to it yet. There was a man who longed for healing, not just physical but emotional. He spent years chasing remedies, affirmations, programs. He got so good at fixing himself that he never stopped to ask if maybe he wasn't broken. And one day he sat beside the ocean. He didn't speak to God. He didn't visualize a new body. He just felt the breeze and let himself be. For the first time, he wasn't trying to get out of pain. He was simply allowing what was without story. And in that moment, something shifted. Not in the body first, but in his identity. He was no longer someone who needed to be healed. He was someone who trusted he was already whole. Weeks later, the symptoms faded. Appointments were cancelled. But the true healing had happened long before that. The healing was in the surrender. That's what relaxation really is. Not giving up, but giving in to the reality already prepared for you. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Matthew 11:28. This is the promise. You were never meant to carry it alone, never meant to force it through will. The moment you soften into rest, you hand it over to the part of you that already knows the way. Sometimes the hardest thing to accept is how simple it truly is. We think the deeper the suffering, the more complicated the solution must be. But manifestation is not complex, it is complete. And your only task is to remember what it feels like to be free. When you embody freedom, life matches your frequency, not because you demanded it, but because you aligned with it. And yes, doubt will visit. You will have days when the old version of you feels louder than the new. Let it pass, like a wave that swells but always returns to still water. You are not regressing, you are releasing. And each time you return to the feeling of ease, even for a breath, you collapse more time, releasing the illusion that effort equals worth. The true work is not in controlling outcomes. It's in softening enough to let the miracle unfold without your interference. So tonight, as your head meets the pillow, don't rehearse the lack, don't replay the worry, just feel. What would it feel like to know it is already yours, not to get it, to be it? And in that sacred stillness, you become the living proof that desire fulfilled is not earned, but allowed. Sometimes the very thing you're chasing is waiting for you to stop running. It's not hiding, it's not far, it's only invisible, because you've been looking through the lens of effort, of fear, of what if it never happens. But what if you set it down? What if you took one deep breath and allowed yourself to belong to the version of you who already has it? Not as a fantasy, not as a mental trick, but as a sacred act of remembering. You see, relaxation is not laziness. It is faith in motion. It is the quiet confidence that your world is being reordered from within. No one tells you that the greatest transformations feel like nothing at all. No fireworks, no spiritual fireworks or angelic choirs, just a small steady calm where there used to be panic. And in that calm, the most miraculous thing happens. You begin to expect goodness, without needing a timeline, without watching the clock. This is the state of the wish fulfilled, not a state of wanting, but a state of being. There's a woman I remember who had tried for years to build her dream business. She'd read the books, done the affirmations, visualized down to the last detail, but nothing stuck. Every success was fleeting, every client unstable. And one morning, exhausted, she sat on her balcony. The sun was just beginning to rise. The air was still, and for the first time in months she asked nothing of the universe. She just sat, breathed, watched the light move across the floor, and something cracked open. A subtle shift, not in her strategy, but in her identity. She was no longer becoming the successful version of herself. She was her, without a launch, without a sale, just being. And within 3 weeks things began to move. A stranger emailed her an opportunity. Her content started reaching people without ads. She didn't chase. She relaxed. The power was never in the doing. It was in the dwelling. The silent assurance that life bends for the one who stops pushing. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. This stillness is the gateway. It is the vibrational agreement with the reality you claim. And yet, it's okay if you forget. If you find yourself doubting again, scrolling, comparing, overanalyzing your progress. It happens. But you are not starting over. You are not broken. You are simply being refined by contrast. Every moment of tension teaches you where your faith still trembles. And every time you relax again, you deepen the groove of your true identity. You become familiar with peace, not as an escape, but as your native language. When people ask how you manifested it, you won't point to a technique, you'll speak of a feeling. The kind that wraps around you in silence. The kind that doesn't explain itself, only is. Because the real manifestation is never the thing, it's the you who receives it effortlessly. The you who no longer doubts if you're worthy. You are. And when you begin to live like someone who trusts that the outer world must conform, that is law, not because you forced it to, but because you stopped arguing with what was always yours. So tonight when your mind races, when the old thoughts return and tell you it's too late, too far, too big, smile softly. Not because you agree, but because you know better now. You know the truth is felt, not fought, received, not earned. And every breath you take in ease brings the unseen closer. You don't have to figure it out. You don't have to heal it all in one night. You only need to return to the feeling that it is done, and rest there, as if the world has already shifted, because in truth it already has. There's a kind of peace that doesn't come from knowing how. It comes from surrendering the need to know. It arrives quietly in the spaces between questions, when you finally stop rehearsing the future, and sit with the feeling that all is well. Not perfect, not complete, just well. Even if the bank account doesn't reflect the vision, even if the mirror doesn't show the glow of your ideal self yet, something within begins to rise when you relax the grip on the world outside. Because the outer is only ever a photograph of your inner state, frozen in time. And like a camera shutter, it will click again. New light, new image. The question is not what do I want to see, but what am I feeling right now, and is it aligned with the scene I desire to experience? That's the real work. Not fighting against the noise of the world, but softening into the version of you who is already there. The world says hustle, your soul says rest. The world says prove, your spirit says receive. And between those two voices, you are asked to choose. It doesn't always feel spiritual. Sometimes it feels like sitting on your couch while dishes pile up and emails go unanswered, because you're finally letting your nervous system recover from years of needing to be on. But don't let the quiet deceive you. That rest is sacred. There was a man who had been visualizing his dream job for months. Every night he imagined walking into the office, shaking hands, feeling the texture of the desk beneath his palms. He felt it so vividly, but in the daytime he grew frustrated. Nothing moved. One day, out of sheer fatigue, he stopped doing all of it. He let go of the techniques, the scenes, even the timeline. He took a walk without trying to align. He laughed at a movie without checking his vibration. He let himself be, without fixing himself. And it came, an unexpected call, a position he never applied for, with the exact description he had imagined. Not because he tried harder, but because he finally rested in the feeling that it was already done. He stopped trying to become, and simply was. That's the paradox most never realize. It's not your effort that magnetizes the manifestation, it's your ease. When you stop trying to deserve, you remember you've been worthy all along. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Matthew 11:28. This isn't passive, it's powerful. To rest in the knowing before there's evidence is the greatest act of faith you can offer. So if today your thoughts feel scattered, if you're doubting again, scrolling through other people's wins, wondering what you're missing, know this, you haven't failed. You're simply being invited to soften, to stop trying to outrun the delay, and instead embody the one who no longer fears time. Imagine how differently you would carry yourself if you knew it was already yours. Would you rush? Would you beg? Would you tighten in worry every morning? Or would you breathe more deeply, move more gently, and savor the moments in between? That's the version of you who manifests with ease. The one who has nothing to prove, who lives from completion, not towards it. And even when impatience whispers, when doubt knocks at your door, you'll smile. Not because you feel perfect, but because you've remembered who you are. The one who doesn't force the flower to bloom but trusts the season. The one who knows that rest is not retreat, it is resurrection. And in the quiet of your being, your world begins again. It's not that things are far away, it's that we keep reaching for them with tense hands. The moment you stop chasing is the moment they begin to move toward you, not because you gave up, but because you gave in. You dropped into the reality where it was already done. And in that realm there is nothing to fix, nothing to earn, nothing to prove. There's only the now, and what you feel now is what you claim forever. A woman once wrote about her desire to be in a loving relationship. She had tried every affirmation, every technique, every list. She visualized dinners, hand-holding, vacations. But it was frantic. Behind the images was a quiet panic, a fear that it wouldn't happen, that she wasn't enough, that time was running out. So she paused. She stopped imagining and started being. She began to treat herself the way she imagined her partner would. She spoke gently to herself when she made mistakes. She dressed for herself. She smiled at her reflection in passing. She dropped the waiting, and within weeks she met someone, not because she forced the meeting, but because she dissolved the resistance that said it wasn't possible. This is the unseen current of life. The state you dwell in becomes the place you live from. You cannot stay in worry and expect peace. You cannot dwell in lack and express abundance. You must go first in consciousness. That's why the Bible tells us, thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee because he trusteth in thee. Isaiah 26:3. When your mind is stayed on the end, when your attention rests gently upon the vision, you become a vibrational match to its reality, not through effort, but through surrender. And yes, the world may call it foolish. They may say you're ignoring reality, living in fantasy. But who defines real? The one who struggles through visible facts, or the one who dares to believe in unseen causes? Neville said it beautifully. Imagination is the only redemptive power in the universe. So why not redeem the story you tell yourself? Why not rewrite the feeling you wake up with? Let your inner speech be soft, your assumptions generous, your heart expectant. If today you feel heavy, not from life, but from your own thoughts about it, breathe, notice the tension, and without judgment release it. You're not late, you're not broken, you're not doing it wrong. You're simply learning to trust a different rhythm, the rhythm of receiving. It often moves slower than the mind wants, but always faster than we think once we surrender the clock. Do you see? You're not waiting for life to change. Life is waiting for you to relax into who you already are. The version of you who has already received it laughs more, sleeps more deeply, walks with a softness in their chest, a glow behind their eyes. You've met people like this, those who radiate without effort, not because their world is perfect, but because their inner world no longer needs proof. That's your true self, not frantic, not desperate, still, certain, enough. So tonight when you close your eyes, don't try to force the vision, don't strain to see the scene clearly. Just fall into the feeling of peace, as if everything you've asked for is already here, and you no longer have to search. Rest in that. Let it hold you. And as you sleep, know that what you feel is planting seeds in the silence. Your job is not to dig them up in the morning. Your job is to keep relaxing into the truth that they've already bloomed. Some try to manifest by force, as if pushing harder could coax the fruit from an unripe tree. But desire, when treated as a demand, becomes a tension in the chest, a clenched jaw, a restless sleep. And yet what you truly want is already yours in imagination, not someday, not after enough effort, but now, if only you'll accept it. The art is not in efforting, but in assuming the posture of already having, not to trick the universe, but to align with the rhythm of creation itself. A man once said he wanted wealth. He studied the market, followed mentors, repeated affirmations, but inside he still felt poor, still carried shame from years of lack, a tightness every time he spent. His world mirrored it perfectly. One night he let it all go. He stopped pretending he was rich. He stopped chasing, and instead imagined the version of himself who no longer feared money, not extravagance, just peace. He pictured himself smiling while paying bills. He felt what it would be like to buy something with ease, not to impress, but because he could. He stopped seeking signs, and something softened. Within weeks, unexpected opportunities appeared, not giant miracles, small quiet changes. An old client returned, a side project took off, and his relationship with money began to shift. He didn't manifest millions overnight, but he manifested the feeling of freedom, and from there everything grew. This is how life moves, not with fireworks but with whispers, with the breeze you feel when you stop running. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. That stillness is not passivity. It is power, the kind that needs no validation, no scoreboard, no applause. You become still when you stop arguing with what is, and start aligning with what already lives within. Do you remember a time you deeply desired something, and then forgot about it, and later it showed up? That wasn't chance. That was the power of relaxed belief. You didn't monitor it. You didn't beg or plead. You simply let it be, and in letting it be you entered the state where it had already been received. Neville often spoke of living in the end, not as a technique, but a state of consciousness, a knowing so quiet, so gentle, that the world bends to meet it without resistance. It doesn't require constant affirmations. It doesn't demand 5 a.m. rituals. It simply asks for trust, not a loud dramatic trust, but a soft, steady one, the kind you feel in your bones. The world may tempt you to panic, to check the mirror for signs, to scroll through endless feeds of people who look like they have it all. But remember, this true creation doesn't need a stage. It happens in silence, in the quiet conviction of a relaxed soul. So if today you feel behind, breathe. If you doubt that you're worthy, touch your heart. It's beating, not because you asked it to, but because life already chose you. You are not manifesting from scratch. You are remembering what's already done. And if you forget tomorrow, that's okay. You don't need to be perfect to receive. You don't need to hold the feeling 24/7. You simply need to return, over and over return, to peace, to trust, to the knowing that you are not alone in this process. You are being guided, not from outside of you but from within, from the eternal imagination that dreamed you into being. And as you lie here now, breathing, resting, something is unfolding, quietly, faithfully, without the need for proof. Let it come, not by chasing, but by allowing. Not by trying harder, but by trusting deeper. Because when you relax, you become magnetic, and the universe always moves toward the heart that already feels fulfilled. There is a rhythm beneath the noise, a gentle current, always flowing, even when the world feels chaotic, even when you feel lost. You were never meant to force your way upstream. Your only task is to remember the direction of ease. One woman wrote, "I was exhausted from trying to do everything right. Meditations, journals, routines. I thought I had to earn my desires, but nothing changed until I stopped trying so hard." What changed? She let go of needing to be perfect before receiving. She gave herself permission to want without apology, and she began to relax not just her body but the image she clung to in her mind. She imagined walking through her home as if her desires had already arrived. She didn't try to feel joy. She noticed it. A mug in her hand, warm and full, the quiet hum of peace after years of striving. It wasn't overnight. Some days she forgot. Some days she slipped back into panic. But she didn't make that failure. She simply came back again. You see, the feeling is the secret. But it isn't fragile. It doesn't vanish the moment you doubt. It waits patiently like a friend in the other room, ready to return the moment you soften. You don't need to hold the vision with clenched fists. You only need to trust that what is truly yours is also seeking you. Delight yourself in the Lord, and He shall give you the desires of your heart. Psalm 37. For delight, not discipline. Delight, not desperation. It's not about checking boxes, but about sinking into the joy of being. Have you ever seen a child ask for something they truly want? There's no shame in their voice, no calculation, just pure radiant expectation. They ask and then they play. They laugh, they live, and somehow it shows up. You were once that child, and that essence still lives in you, beneath the armor, beneath the overthinking. The more you relax, the more you let that innocence return. It's not a weakness to rest. It's not laziness to trust. It is divine maturity to stop chasing shadows and begin embodying the light. Think about a time when something came easily. Maybe a person, an opportunity, an answer. You didn't obsess. You didn't analyze every step. You simply moved in flow and life responded. That was a glimpse of your power. Not because you hustled harder, but because you got out of the way. The anxious mind tries to calculate. But creation doesn't respond to calculation. It responds to conviction. And conviction feels like calm. Even now, if you close your eyes and breathe, you can feel it. That soft hum underneath your chest, telling you that everything is already unfolding. Your only job is to dwell in the mood of the wish fulfilled. To live, not from what is missing, but from what is already done. And when doubt creeps in, because it will, don't fight it. Smile at it like a familiar guest. Say, "I see you," and return to the feeling. It is okay to forget. It is okay to wobble. What matters is not that you always believe, but that you keep returning to the place where belief lives. There is no scoreboard in manifestation. There is only alignment. And alignment feels like softness, not strain. So tonight, let your shoulders drop. Let the weight of needing to figure it all out fall off your back. You are already held, already chosen, already whole. Nothing outside you needs to shift before you can feel peace within. And from that peace, everything you once chased begins to chase you. Let that be enough for now. Let that carry you to sleep. You were never meant to sprint your way into the life you desire. This is not a race, it is a return, a quiet reunion with who you already are beneath the noise. You may think manifestation means effort, that it is a schedule, a system, a strict control of every stray thought, but the deepest truths are always simpler than we expect, and more beautiful. Creation flows not from tension, but from surrender. The flower doesn't bloom by willing itself open. It opens because the sun warms it from within. So it is with you. In one moment of true inner ease, you do more than months of anxious striving, because in that stillness you stop resisting what is already yours. There's a man who used to struggle with money. He told himself daily, I have to work harder, I have to hustle. But the more he tried, the more resistance he met, until one day he sat by his window and imagined what it would feel like to be free. He didn't script anything. He didn't recite affirmations. He just breathed and pictured the ease of paying every bill with joy. He imagined himself laughing, not from relief but from knowing, truly knowing that it was done. In 2 weeks, unexpected money flowed in. In 2 months, a new job opened doors he couldn't have planned. And the more he relaxed into the feeling, the more it grew. He wasn't rewarded for being spiritual. He aligned with the truth that the state you occupy becomes the world you live in. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Matthew 11:28. What a radical promise. Rest brings reward, not stress, not sweat, not scrambling, but rest. Rest in the assumption that what you seek is already seeking you. Rest in the knowing that your imagination is the womb of your world. Rest in the understanding that all things are created twice, first within and then without. When your inner world is in chaos, no outer action will feel quite right. But when your inner world is at peace, doors open before you even knock. This is why we say relax. Not to avoid life, but to create from a higher place. The impatient mind wants movement, signs, confirmation. It wants evidence before it believes. But imagination asks something higher. It asks for faith, not in the world, but in yourself. Your true self doesn't panic. It doesn't compare. It doesn't need to figure out how. It simply knows what you assume as true, with feeling, becomes flesh. There will be days you forget. There will be moments you spiral. But don't turn that into a story of failure. Turn it into a doorway back home. Say to yourself, this too is part of the unfolding, and return to the mood of fulfillment. Close your eyes. Can you feel the silence behind your thoughts? That stillness, that's where creation lives. Not in noise, not in rush, but in rest. You don't have to be fearless. You just have to soften enough to feel the truth behind the fear, that nothing is actually standing in your way except the belief that something is. Every time you relax into your imagined end, you are collapsing time. Every time you embody the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you are stepping into your true inheritance, not because you're doing it right, but because you are it already, and you are finally letting it be easy. Let this be your practice now. Not more effort, not more trying, but more trust in the unseen root before the fruit appears. And if nothing changes on the outside just yet, don't make that mean it's not working. Make that the very reason to go deeper into faith. Every seed rests before it breaks through. Every desire sleeps inside you until it finds a heart soft enough to let it bloom. So rest now, not as escape, but as power, as alignment, as a living prayer whispered in silence. Because the moment you stop needing, you start receiving, and all of heaven bends gently to meet you there. There is a rhythm beneath your breath, a wisdom older than thought, a stillness that has always known the way. When you try to force life into your timing, you resist the very intelligence that created you. But when you relax, truly relax, you begin to harmonize with the unseen, and that's when life starts to meet you halfway. A woman once shared her story. She had been visualizing love for years, script after script, list after list. She imagined the perfect partner with great precision. But her heart was anxious. Her body was tense. She would wake up, check her phone, searching for a sign. Nothing came. One day, out of sheer fatigue, she gave up. Not with bitterness, but with surrender. She said softly, if it's meant for me, it will feel like peace. And for the first time, she stopped looking and started living. She danced again. She cooked with music. She let herself smile at strangers, not from need, but from joy. And weeks later, she met him at the market while laughing over something small. He was everything she'd asked for, but she only met him once. She had become the version of herself who no longer needed him to feel whole. That is the hidden secret. Your desire is not outside you. It waits for the state of consciousness that matches it. We don't attract what we want. We attract what we are willing to relax into. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. Not be perfect, not be busy, not be good enough. Be still. because in stillness you are no longer pretending to be someone you're not. You return to the silence beneath your fear, and in that silence you hear the whisper that says all that you seek is already done. The modern world moves fast. It rewards noise, urgency, effort. But the soul is slow. The soul speaks in feeling, not volume. So many are afraid to slow down. They think if they stop trying they'll fall behind. But it is in slowing down that we catch up to ourselves. We finally feel again, and feeling, not force, is what shapes reality. When you relax into the wish fulfilled, you are not waiting for the world to show it to you. You are letting the inner experience become so natural that the outer world has no choice but to reflect it. And yes, your mind will resist. It will say, but what if it doesn't work? It will demand timelines, logic, control. But you are not your mind. You are the one who chooses whether or not to believe it. And beliefs are just thoughts you've practiced. Practice stillness. Practice peace. Practice the gentle knowing that what you desire is not far, but folded into you, waiting for your softness to reveal it. Even in moments when doubt creeps in, don't scold yourself. Don't tighten again. Just breathe and return to the scene in your heart. Feel it again, not for results but for the truth of it. Your imagination is not fiction. It is formation. The deeper you feel the end, the more the means will arrange themselves. And the more you relax, the more you begin to notice how much was always working for you. The missed call that protected you. The delay that taught you patience. The silence that gave you space to grow. The universe is never punishing you. It is parenting your consciousness, nudging you back into alignment with who you really are. So as you lie in bed tonight, release the outcome. Let go of the timelines, the comparisons, the little mental games you play when you think you're behind. You are not behind. You are being rewrote, and your only task now is to rest in the state of the answered prayer. Because that state, that gentle mood of certainty, of warmth, of quiet celebration, is the signal that draws the unseen into form. Let the tension melt. Let the breath soften. Let your heart open to the idea that everything is already working out for you. Not because you earned it, but because you finally believed it could be easy. And from that place, you become a living mirror of the miracle you've always been. There is something holy in surrender, not in the giving up of hope, but in the giving up of control. You don't need to be the architect of every detail. You only need to feel the truth of what's already done. A man once shared how he desired a new home. He searched listings, calculated budgets, got lost in loans and logic, but nothing aligned. The more he pushed, the more doors closed. So one night he let it all go. He sat quietly, imagining himself barefoot in a sunlit kitchen, smelling coffee, feeling wood beneath his feet, watching his child run past the hallway with laughter echoing in the air. No blueprints, no agency, just a feeling. He returned to that scene each night, not with strain but with ease, as if remembering something instead of wishing for it. Weeks passed, then a friend, out of the blue, told him about a place not yet listed. It had the same windows, the same hallway, even the same scent of cedar in the air. No resistance, no struggle, just a moment that matched the mood he had already lived inside. This is what Neville meant by living in the end. Not hoping, not asking, but knowing, deeply, that your scene is sacred, that your feeling is a prayer more powerful than words. Before they call, I will answer. While they are still speaking, I will hear. Isaiah 65:24. When you relax into the wish fulfilled, you become magnetic, not because you are special, but because you are still, still enough to allow, still enough to hear the gentle rhythm of answered prayer. In today's world, silence is a rare practice. We fill the gaps with noise, scrolls, news, comparison. But manifestation requires emptiness, a fertile void where the imagined can take root. The mind will whisper, you need to be doing more. But that voice is old. It comes from fear, from scarcity, from childhood memories of earning love instead of resting in it. Let it speak, and let it pass. You are no longer a child begging for proof. You are the creator who knows, not from ego, but from awareness, that all things respond to your inner climate. So tend to that climate with care. Water it with gratitude, not urgency. Sun it with joy, not impatience. You don't manifest by controlling the world. You manifest by relaxing into the version of yourself who already has what you once chased. And yes, you will falter. You'll forget. You'll scroll when you meant to visualize. You'll feel heavy when you want to float. That's all right. Setbacks are not punishments. They are pauses, gentle reminders to realign, not restart. You're not beginning again. You are deepening. When a seed cracks open, it doesn't think it's failing. It's just becoming. So trust your cracking. Trust the quiet hours when doubt sneaks in. Trust the rest, the stillness, the in-between. These are not the absence of progress. They are the process. In the unseen, roots are forming, connections are aligning, paths are clearing that you do not yet see. And as you keep relaxing into the vision, as you keep feeling your way forward, not with pressure, but with presence, you'll begin to sense the nearness of it, not as a someday, but as a now unfolding. No one can rush your becoming, and you don't need to explain your faith to anyone. It's okay if they don't understand. This is your journey, your inner temple, your communion with the unseen. So tonight, as you drift closer to sleep, ask yourself gently, what would it feel like if it were already mine? Then don't answer with your head, answer with your body. Let the smile rise naturally, let your breath slow, let your heart soften into that holy knowing. This is your work, not to force it, not to chase it, but to feel it as real, until the outer world has no choice but to catch up, and it will, not because you fought for it, but because you finally allowed it to come quietly, through rest. Sometimes the greatest leap is not forward, but inward. There is a sacred power in softening, in stepping back from the need to prove, to earn, to grasp. You don't need to scream at the universe, you only need to whisper to yourself, it is done. A woman once shared how she'd longed for love, not just romance, but true companionship. Years of affirmations, vision boards, first dates that fizzled. She thought she was doing it wrong, but really she was doing too much. Until one day, exhausted by striving, she surrendered. Not in defeat, but in peace. She imagined herself curled on the couch beside him, her head on his chest, laughter in the quiet. Not a fantasy, a memory from the future. She began to live as if love was already part of her day. Not pretending, but embodying the woman who no longer needed it, because she had it. She'd pour 2 cups of tea in the morning, buy fresh flowers every Sunday, speak kindly to herself the way she hoped he would. And then, without force, he arrived. Not a savior, not a reward, but a reflection. He matched the inner warmth she had cultivated in stillness. Neville once said, change your conception of yourself and you will automatically change the world in which you live. It is never about them. It is always about you, and not the frantic version of you. Not the anxious achiever, but the one who can rest in her worth, even when it hasn't yet arrived. That's the paradox. When you stop chasing, it starts unfolding. But let's be honest, there are moments when it feels hard to trust. You meditate, but still check the clock. You visualize, but peek at your bank balance. You affirm, but the fear returns. This is normal. The old self resists the silence because it finds identity in noise, in solving, fixing, doing. But the new self is built in the quiet. Don't fight the fear. Observe it, wrap it in compassion and let it pass through you like a wave. Because you are not trying to create something from scratch. You are remembering a version of you that already exists. Your job is not to fight for the future, but to feel its presence now, subtly, consistently, joyfully. There was a man who imagined financial freedom, not yachts, not extravagance, just waking up without dread, freedom to breathe. He didn't know how it would come. He was deep in debt, but he stopped begging, and instead began acting like someone who trusted provision. He paid bills with a blessing, thanked every meal like a king, and laid down at night with a heart of peace. Eventually an old client returned. Then a new offer came. Then an unexpected check. Not because he hustled harder, but because he became a vibrational match to abundance, without resistance. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Psalm 23:1. When you relax, you say to the universe, I trust you. I don't need to watch you prove it. You release the leash. You allow the blessing to find you. And when it does, it won't come with fireworks. It will feel familiar, natural, as if it had always belonged to you, because inwardly, it did. So tonight, breathe a little slower. Feel the space between thoughts widen. Drop the need to be anything other than present. You are not manifesting from lack. You are manifesting from memory. The memory of who you truly are, and what has always been waiting for you, just beyond effort. Rest in the knowing, and let that rest become your prayer. You are not late. You are not behind. There is no race, no ticking clock in the mind of God. Creation is finished. You are simply arriving at what has always belonged to you. But the mind, oh, the mind loves to measure. It compares, it worries. It wants signs, timelines, proof. It whispers that you're not doing enough, not thinking enough, not spiritual enough. Yet, what if the very thing you're seeking is hidden in the stillness you've been avoiding? A young man once came to Neville, anxious about his career. He imagined success constantly, but always with tension, like a clenched fist. He wanted it so badly it hurt. He asked, why isn't it happening? Neville smiled and said, you are imagining lack, not fulfillment. You are pleading, not assuming. The man didn't understand at first, so he was given a simple practice, to lie down each night and feel the warmth of already having it, not visualizing the outer event, but resting in the inner knowing. This is who I am. He practiced, and he failed, fell asleep worried, doubted his imagination, woke up checking results, but he kept returning, not perfectly, but honestly. And one evening, something changed. He didn't try to imagine, he just let go, and in that letting go, a calm took over. He felt it, like sinking into water. He was successful, not in the future but now, not in the outer world, but in his inner world. 2 weeks later, the outer caught up, a call, an offer, a door swung open. The state had been claimed, and the world, as it always does, reshaped itself around it. This is the mystery of surrender. It is not giving up, it is giving over. Giving over your limited mind to the infinite imagination within. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. That stillness is not passive, it is potent. It is the womb where your desires gestate in peace. Many fall into the trap of force, repeating techniques like incantations, trying to fix themselves, correct every thought. But manifestation is not earned, it is allowed. You don't plant a seed and then scream at the soil to hurry. You water it gently. You trust the unseen process beneath the surface. You know it will rise in time, because that is its nature. And yet when doubt comes, welcome it. It's not a sign of failure, but a sign you're on the edge of change. Impatience is the mind's resistance to trust. It wants certainty before it believes, but faith believes before it sees. So soothe your system. When fear arises, don't wrestle it. Whisper, it's okay. I'm safe now. Bring your body back to peace, because peace is the signal that opens the gate. Imagine someone who's trying to manifest a home. They picture the walls, the keys, the view, but inside they feel tension. They're trying to will it into form. But the home is not just a structure, it's a state. The real home is the feeling of stability, of warmth, of sanctuary, and that feeling is available now. Sit in your current space, light a candle, feel gratitude, not for what's coming, but for what already is. This tells the subconscious, there's nothing missing, I'm no longer searching, I have arrived. And then, the outer begins to mirror that settled state. Don't underestimate how deeply the world is listening to you, not to your words, to your vibration. And the vibration of truth is not desperate. It's not frantic or loud. It's soft. It whispers, I know who I am. Tonight when you close your eyes, don't strive to manifest something. Just be. Rest in the awareness that you are already whole, already seen, already held by something larger than the logic of time. Feel it wrap around you like a warm blanket. The knowing that you are allowed to relax and still receive. And as you drift into sleep, let your final thought be not a plea, but a quiet assurance. It is done. There's a moment when you stop reaching and you begin receiving. It doesn't come with fireworks or signs from the sky. It comes like a deep breath you didn't know you were holding. In the silence you realize it was never about doing more, it was always about allowing more. So many seekers wake each day with a hidden heaviness, the weight of becoming, of trying to be spiritual enough, positive enough, healed enough to finally deserve what they want. But your worth is not on trial. There is no divine checklist being graded. Creation is finished. All that remains is for you to claim your portion by feeling its truth. A woman once wrote to Neville, she had tried everything, affirmations, visualizations, rituals, but her body still ached, and her dream of wellness felt distant. One night, exhausted, she stopped trying. She lay in bed and whispered, if I were healed, how would I feel? Not what she'd see, not what she'd hear, just how would I feel? She let that question cradle her like a lullaby, not forcing answers, just allowing the feeling to rise. It came in waves. First a soft relief, then a lightness in her chest, then peace. For the first time she didn't imagine healing as a goal. She felt it as a presence, already here. Over the next month her symptoms began to dissolve. Her energy returned, and though she could not explain how, she knew something shifted the night she stopped chasing the outcome and surrendered to the feeling. According to your faith be it unto you. Matthew 9:29. Faith is not effort, it is ease. It is the gentle art of resting in a conclusion before the evidence appears. But rest feels dangerous to the anxious mind. It wants to monitor, to fix, to grasp at results. It believes the silence means nothing is working. That is not the truth. The silence is when everything is working. Just beyond your senses, the bridge is being built. The cast is being assembled. The answer is already on its way. But if you cannot relax, if you live in the state of it's not here yet, you postpone the arrival of what's already yours. That's why Neville called feeling the secret, because feeling is the signal, the inner state is the cause, and the world is only the echo. So what does it mean to relax? It doesn't mean passive living. It means energetic certainty. It means returning to the truth that you are the operant power, not by force but by faith. Close your eyes. Feel the thing you want most, but don't beg for it. Don't even chase it. Instead, embody it. Breathe with it. Let your body wear the reality like a familiar coat, not foreign, not far, but yours. If your desire were already true, how would your shoulders fall? How would your heart beat? What would you no longer be afraid of? Live from that place, not all day, just for now. And if tomorrow you forget, that's okay. You'll remember again. And each time you remember, it becomes easier. You rewire the self-image, retrain the nervous system, reclaim the natural rhythm of receiving. You will stumble. You will doubt. That's not failure. That's the curriculum. You're learning to walk by inner light when the outer world still looks dark. But the more you relax, the faster things appear, because you stop resisting the goodness that was always flowing toward you. Tonight, when your mind wanders, don't argue with it. Don't fight your thoughts. Just gently return to the feeling of already having, not to get the thing, but because the feeling is the thing. It is your proof. It is your permission slip. Your job isn't to make it happen. Your job is to stay in the knowing, long enough, soft enough, that life has no choice but to catch up. So rest now, not in hope, but in knowing, not in effort, but in ease. It is already yours, and you don't need to do more. You only need to let go, and let it in. There is a sacred stillness that lives between your desire and its fulfillment. Not the stillness of waiting in fear, but the stillness of knowing. You don't need to announce your wish to the sky every day. The moment you imagined it clearly with feeling, it was planted in the soil of consciousness. And like a seed beneath the ground, its silence is not a sign of absence. It's a sign of unseen activity. But impatience is the temptation. When nothing seems to be happening, the mind grows loud. It wonders, should I visualize more? Should I try harder? Should I force the outer to match the inner? And yet the moment you try to force a flower to bloom, you interrupt its natural unfolding. The world mirrors not what you strive for, but what you settle into. That's why relaxation is not laziness. It is confidence in the unseen laws. It is a quiet, persistent trust that everything is already taking shape on levels far deeper than logic can reach. A man once wrote to Neville after losing his job. He had applied to dozens of places, nothing. He kept affirming, visualizing, repeating his scenes, but underneath it all was a current of panic. What if it doesn't work? Neville told him gently, stop, rest in the end, not to make it happen, but because it already has. The man did something radical. He stopped looking. He stopped refreshing his inbox every hour. He took long walks. He napped in the sun. He read novels he loved as a boy. And each night before sleep he imagined shaking hands in a sunlit office, smiling as someone said, welcome aboard. He imagined it not as a tool, but as a memory. Within 2 weeks he received a call from a company he'd forgotten he applied to. A job better than any he'd chased. Less stress. More freedom. He told Neville later, it came when I stopped trying to get it, and started feeling like it was already mine. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. The stillness is not empty. It is full of power. You are not manifesting through tension. You are manifesting through identification. And your identity, your self-concept, is shaped not by what you say once, but by what you feel repeatedly. So if your life feels stuck, ask gently without judgment, what am I identifying with today? What am I rehearsing in thought and feeling? You cannot relax into something you believe is foreign, but you can relax into something that feels familiar. This is why Neville urged us to revise the past, not to change history, but to rewire identity. You don't need to fix the old story with logic. You don't even need to forgive everyone out loud. You just need to feel yourself into a new version of who you are now, a version who is safe, worthy, peaceful, and completely at home with your desire. Let that feeling become your pillow at night. Not desperate, not needy, just soft, certain, comfortable. Let your imagination become a place of restoration, not of struggle. Each time the doubt creeps in, don't argue with it. Don't affirm over it. Just smile gently and return to the state of already having, because it is your state, not your statements, that call forth reality. And the more you practice this softness, this letting go of effort, the faster things rearrange. Not because you forced the bridge, but because you walked it calmly, with grace. Let this be your new rhythm. Relax, feel, trust, receive. And when impatience returns, as it will, just breathe, sink into the knowing. There is nothing wrong. You are not behind. The invisible roots are growing deeper so the blossom can last longer. Let your rest be your act of faith. Let your calm be your confirmation. Let your stillness prove that you believe it is already done. There's a certain tension we've grown used to, as if we must earn our desires through effort, pressure, or endless repetition. But creation was never meant to be a contest of willpower. It is not the striving that brings it forth, it is the surrender. You don't need to chase what's already yours. You only need to stop running long enough to let it meet you. So many people speak their affirmations like lifelines. They repeat the words with desperation, hoping it will drown out the fear. But the tone of your being is louder than any sentence. It's not what you say, but how you feel when you say it. You could whisper a single phrase in stillness once, and if it's saturated with belief, it's more powerful than 1,000 hollow chants. Neville often said, the feeling of the wish fulfilled is the secret, not the image alone, not the words alone, but the feeling, the internal knowing that, yes, this is mine, that it's natural, that it fits, that it belongs to me. And that is why relaxation is not a suggestion. It is the very portal to that state. When you relax, your guard drops, the anxious mind softens, the identity loosens its grip, and something deeper, something timeless takes its place. You've likely noticed, when you're frantic, you forget things. When you're calm, inspiration flows. When you're worried about how and when, you miss the whispers of what to do next. But when you relax, a kind of holy intelligence rises to meet you. One woman Neville taught had longed for a child. Years of failed attempts, endless procedures, mountains of doubt. Finally, one night she stopped visualizing and simply said, if it's mine, it will find me. She curled into bed and imagined cradling a warm blanket. Not a perfect scene, not a flawless script, just the feeling of holding, not needing, not wanting, just holding. That week her sister called and said, there's a newborn whose mother can't keep her. I don't know why, but I thought of you. And she knew. It was already hers. Before they call, I will answer. While they are yet speaking, I will hear. Isaiah 65:24. When you feel it, you don't need to look for evidence. You become the evidence. And that's the power of letting go. Not of your desire, but of the urgency. You don't need to force yourself into belief. You only need to drop the story that says you're separate from it. Begin to speak to yourself the way life would feel after your wish is fulfilled. If you were already wealthy, would you rush your thoughts, fearing a missed opportunity? No. You'd breathe deeper, you'd walk slower, you'd laugh more easily. If you were already loved, you'd no longer seek validation. You'd smile at your reflection, because you'd recognize the one who is already chosen. If the business was already thriving, you wouldn't question your worth. You'd rise each morning with quiet expectation, like a tree expecting sunlight. This is not pretending, it's remembering. You are not becoming something new. You are uncovering what's always been inside you. And if you falter, it's okay. If you forget, it's okay. You're not being tested. You're being taught how to return to yourself. Each time the old fear returns, don't wrestle with it. Welcome it like an old friend who's simply confused. Hold it in the light of your awareness until it softens and slips away. You don't manifest from perfection. You manifest from presence. So let this be your practice. A gentle unwinding of all the thoughts that said you had to work harder, be better, prove more. None of that was ever true. You only had to relax into who you already are. The version of you who has it, loves it, loves it. The more you rest in that awareness, the more life rushes in to reflect it, not because you chased it, but because you became it. And so we end not with striving, but with softness, because the universe moves fastest for the one who no longer needs to rush. There is a rhythm beneath the noise of your mind, a quiet current that never hurries, never hesitates. It is your natural state, the stillness before thought, the restfulness that isn't sleep, but knowing. You don't have to earn this stillness. You don't have to meditate for hours or master some elusive technique. You just have to stop interrupting it. Neville said, creation is finished. Not will be, not might be, but is. Everything you've ever desired already exists. Not in some far-off place, but in consciousness. This is not poetry. It's law. Your task is not to construct it, but to select it. And to select it, you must feel relaxed enough to let go of all others. But so often we linger in the in-between. The space where you've imagined the outcome but haven't yet rested in it. You still peek outside for signs. You still ask, why is it taking so long? And in that question you unknowingly delay it, because you are feeling the absence, not the presence. One man shared on the Neville subreddit that he'd been visualizing a promotion for over a year. Perfect scenes, detailed imagery, but no results. Then he stopped. He stopped imagining and simply relaxed into being. He began showing up to work already feeling like the leader. He let go of needing the title to prove it. 2 weeks later he was offered the role, not because he begged the universe, but because he aligned with the version of himself that had no reason to doubt. Relaxation is not laziness. It is receptivity. It is you placing yourself in the hands of the divine and saying, I trust you to arrange this better than I ever could. That kind of faith is magnetic. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. Stillness is not a state of doing nothing. It is a state of becoming everything. Because in stillness all identities dissolve except the one you have chosen. And choosing doesn't have to be loud. It can be a soft inner nod, a feeling is me now without explanation, without effort. You don't need to feel it 24/7. You don't need to repeat affirmations until your throat is dry. You just need moments. Moments where you drop into the end, where you breathe as though it's already done. And then you return to your life, not to check or control, but to live from the knowing that it's unfolding. Some days you'll forget. You'll spiral into overthinking or reach for old habits. But that's part of the return. There is no failure, only reminders. You're learning to let go with confidence, to stop grabbing the seed and trust the soil. Remember, you're not here to manifest for the sake of acquiring things. You're here to embody the truth that everything is within you. Your desires are not outside validations. They are clues. They point to the self you came here to remember. And when you relax, you finally make space for that self to rise. You'll find that people change around you. You'll find that problems dissolve without direct intervention. You'll find that doors you didn't even knock on begin to open. But all of it stems from one inner shift, relaxing into the feeling that you already are what you sought to become. So tonight, as you drift into sleep, don't try to force a perfect image. Just breathe. Just feel what it's like to be at peace, knowing it's already yours, knowing that the self within you is already living it, and that is enough. So many spend their days trying to become, yet all the power lies in being still and knowing. You don't manifest faster by chasing. You manifest faster by returning. Returning to what? To that inner sanctuary where you already are who you've longed to be. There's no friction there. No bargaining, no what if, or how long will it take. There's only ease. A deep exhale into the version of you who never had to strive. One woman wrote about this very thing. She had tried to attract love for years, scripts, affirmations, visualizations, even scripting wedding vows. Still nothing changed. Until one night she let it all go. She lay in bed and whispered, I'm tired of trying. If it's mine, let it come. I am already loved, and I don't need it to arrive to feel it. That night she slept differently, not in need but in wholeness. And within days a person from her past returned, but this time mirroring the love she had finally found within. There is something irresistible about one who needs nothing, because when you no longer seek, you radiate. It is in this surrendered state that the impossible bends, because your imagination when relaxed is divine. You're not creating from stress or urgency. You're not projecting a self that is wounded or waiting. You are calm. You are quiet. And in that quiet, your word becomes flesh. Let go of the idea that your desire is outside of you. It's not in some timeline to be chased. It lives in your current, in this present identity. What you feel you are, you draw into form. And if you feel calm, complete, assured, the world reflects it. Not out of magic, but out of spiritual law. Jesus said, therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it and it will be yours. Mark 11:24. Not believe you will receive it, but have received it. This is the heart of Neville's message. You must live in the end, and to live in the end you must relax enough to dwell there without needing proof. It's not always easy. Some mornings you'll wake up anxious, your mind racing to fix or control. That's okay. You're not failing. You're simply being invited again to return to the inner state. This path doesn't demand perfection. It asks for persistence in identity. When you catch yourself doubting, don't fight it. Observe it, and softly choose again. There is power in the whisper, I remember who I am. There's power in walking through your day as the one who already has the thing, not with arrogance but with quiet confidence, not needing anyone to notice because the self within you already knows. And when you forget, as you will, let that be part of the unfolding. Let it be human. Let it be okay. This is not a race to spiritual perfection. It is a slow, sacred deepening into the felt truth of your being. So if today was hard, if you spiraled or doubted or fell back into fear, that's not the end of the story. That's just a pause in the rhythm. You can begin again. Even now, close your eyes. Feel into the version of you who has no more questions, who isn't searching anymore. Just being, just breathing, just resting in the knowing. And from this softness, everything flows. The more you try to control, the more reality stiffens. It mirrors your tension, not as punishment, but as reflection. And yet, how easy it is to forget, to fall into thoughts like, maybe I didn't visualize enough. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe I'm not worthy yet. But the moment you question your worth, You abandon the throne of creation, because manifestation doesn't come through effort. It flows through embodiment. You are not a beggar at the gates of your dream. You are its source. And when you relax into that truth, everything softens. Everything begins to move. One man shared how he tried, for years, to manifest a new career. He wrote goals, repeated affirmations, watched hundreds of videos. Still, nothing happened. Until one morning, he made peace with where he was. He stopped trying to escape it. And instead of trying to feel it real, he simply became still. He said, God, if I never leave this job, let me at least feel fulfilled now. And something shifted. The restlessness melted into a quiet strength. He walked into work with presence, not resistance. And within weeks a role appeared, one he never applied for, offered by someone who had seen his transformation without a word spoken. It wasn't the actions that changed everything. It was the feeling. When he accepted the now, he made room for the new. Because the truth is, your desire is not waiting for you. It is waiting on you to surrender your fight. Be still, and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. That stillness isn't laziness. It is radical faith. It's the boldness to know that you are already what you seek. And yet, we live in a world of noise, notifications, deadlines, opinions from 1,000 mouths that don't know your spirit. You scroll and see people succeeding. You wonder if you're behind. You start to compare your timing to someone else's highlight reel. But timing is a myth. When you master the state, there is no when in the realm of imagination. Only I am an. And when you can whisper, I am, without needing proof, without tensing your body in waiting, without scanning your life for signs, you have crossed the veil. This is why Neville said, dare to assume you are what your reason and senses deny, because faith is unreasonable. It doesn't follow the steps. It doesn't ask for validation. It creates because it knows, not because it hopes. And when doubt rises, as it will, you don't have to fight it. You can notice it, nod at it gently, and return home. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness that chooses which thoughts to water. Will you water the voice that says it's not working, or the one that whispers it is already done? It doesn't matter how many times you've doubted. What matters is what you return to. Return to rest. Return to the end. Return to the breath of the fulfilled self. And even if nothing changes tomorrow, you remain steady, because you have touched the inner world, where it is already so. This is the secret. Not forcing the outer, but relaxing the inner. And from that stillness, the world reshapes itself around you. Even now, your desire is not outside of you. It is folded within, like a seed resting in still soil, not inactive, not forgotten, but incubating, waiting for the warmth of your faith to bring it forth. You don't need to chase or convince. The oak never begs the sun. The flower never forces its bloom. And yet they come, not through striving, but through surrender. So must you. This is why the world feels tight when you resist. Why the door closes when you try to push it open. It's not that you're being punished. You're being redirected inward, to the one place you've overlooked your feeling. There was a woman who longed for love. Years passed, and each relationship faded. She read every book, visualized daily, but beneath it all a quiet fear lived. What if I'm too much? What if I'm not enough? It wasn't the lack of technique. It was the presence of doubt. One evening she let go of the rituals. She sat still and asked, what does it feel like to be loved truly, fully? And she rested there, not imagining a face, not scripting scenes, just breathing into the peace of being chosen. Within months a man arrived, not because she finally did something right, but because she finally relaxed into the truth that she was never lacking. Your state is what creates. Your world is always responding to the tone of your being, not your words, but your inner knowing. According to your faith be it unto you. Matthew 9:29. Not according to effort, not according to time, but according to faith, the felt experience of already having. So ask yourself softly tonight, how would I feel if it were done? Not how would I make it happen, but how would I move? How would I sit? What would I no longer be concerned with? Feel that. Let it wash over you like warm rain. Let it settle into your breath. Let it guide the way you speak to yourself, the way you look in the mirror, the way you move through rooms. You are not here to be desperate. You are here to be divine. There is nothing holier than a heart at rest, one that has stopped wrestling with reality and simply knows it is already mine. When impatience creeps in, when the outer still looks the same, don't panic. That's just the echo of old assumptions. Let it play out like the fading ring of a bell, and stay in your peace, Stay in your chosen identity. Stay in the embrace of fulfillment. Even the most powerful manifestations often arrive not with fireworks, but with quiet grace. You glance around one day and realize, what I used to pray for, I'm now living. It will feel natural, because your state made it so. So rest, beloved, not as escape, but as embodiment. You are not on the outside looking in. You are the one who holds the brush. Create from ease. Create from stillness. Create from the knowing that you already are all that you seek. When you finally stop reaching outward, when you stop measuring the world for signs of progress, you enter the only space that truly creates the inner sanctuary of assumption. This isn't passivity. It's precision. It is choosing again and again to live from the invisible truth rather than the visible noise. One man in his darkest hour found himself alone in a small apartment. His job was gone. His relationship ended. His bank account nearly empty. The world said this is failure, but something within whispered, this is still unfolding. Rather than react to the lack, he decided to rest in the version of himself that already had what he needed. He would walk to the corner store with shoulders relaxed, as if abundance followed behind him. He didn't visualize constantly. He didn't affirm obsessively. He simply became the man who already received his blessing. And slowly, without striving, the outer caught up to the inner. A friend offered him work. A passion he'd buried turned into income. He met someone who saw him not as broken, but whole. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. This is not about effort. It's about embodiment. It's not about doing more. It's about being more deeply the one who already is. That's where manifestation lives. Not in your plans, but in your presence. But presence isn't easy when we're used to panic. You may feel restless. You may want to double check, refresh, ask, is it working yet? These are not signs of failure. They are invitations to return. Return to trust. Return to identity. Return to that quiet inner place where you feel the wish fulfilled, and nothing else matters. Your senses may tempt you. Your fears may whisper timelines, but all of that is illusion. The real movement happens when you no longer need proof, because your state has already changed. This is why sleep is so sacred. It's not just rest, it's rehearsal. As you drift off, you take with you the final note of your consciousness. If it is lack, you plant more lack. If it is peace, you carry peace into the deep. So before you sleep tonight, let yourself settle into your chosen identity. Feel the relief of the wish already fulfilled. Let your breath slow. Let your shoulders drop. Let the future be now. You'll be tempted to rush. You'll be tempted to fix. But your greatest power lies not in doing, but in dwelling. Dwell in the unseen until it feels more real than the seen. Dwell in love until the echo of fear fades. Dwell in gratitude until the need dissolves. There will be days when you forget, when anxiety rises or doubts return. That's all right. You are not a robot. You are a soul learning to remember. Just return. Return to the feeling. Return to the stillness. Return to the place within where all things are already yours. Relax, not because it's easy, but because it's done. You don't have to convince the world. You only need to persuade yourself. One quiet conviction held in the stillness of your soul moves mountains the world cannot see. It's tempting to chase, to run toward signs, to scroll for synchronicities, to measure your worth by what responds. But true creation isn't loud. It hums beneath the surface, quiet as breath, steady as sunrise. A woman once told me how she tried everything. Vision boards, affirmations, scripting. Each day she hoped her desire would bloom, but hope carried a scent of need. One evening, exhausted, she let it go. Not from despair, but from trust. She curled into bed and imagined not the scene of receiving, but the peace of having already received. Not fireworks, not cheers, just a subtle calm, a knowing sigh. She felt the sheets beneath her body, the softness of the moment, and whispered to herself, it is done. Within weeks, her outer life began to reflect the inner climate she created that night. Not because she chased it, but because she became it. You are not here to beg the universe. You are here to remember that you and the universe are not separate things. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Proverbs 23:7. This is the secret the world overlooks, that your thoughts only matter when they're steeped in feeling. It is not the words you say, but the state you embody that shapes the clay of reality. And yet impatience creeps in. The mind starts a countdown. It says, I've imagined for days, where is it? It whispers, maybe it's not working for me. But the oak tree does not rush its bloom. The river does not force its current. And the soul, your infinite self, knows there is no such thing as delay when you are dwelling in the end. Distraction will try to pull you out. Fear will try to talk you down. Even those closest to you may not understand what you're doing. That's all right. This path isn't for applause. It's for awakening. You don't have to explain your faith. You only have to feel it. Live it. Let it wrap around your body like a coat in winter, invisible, but undeniably warm. A man I met once imagined himself healthy while lying in a hospital bed. He didn't deny his condition. He just didn't feed it. Each night he fell asleep imagining how his body would feel walking strong again. Not grand gestures, just subtle cues. His feet on cool grass, a gentle stretch in the morning, laughter with friends over dinner. He didn't visualize with effort. He entered the experience and rested there, as if the dream had already made its way into his bones, and the body, like clay, yielded to the sculptor, not because he fought, but because he felt. If it feels heavy, you are carrying more than you need. If it feels frantic, you are believing more in time than in truth. Let go of the stopwatch. Let go of the how. Let go of the need to prove, perform, perfect, and rest in your new identity as if it were already true, because in the only place that matters, it is. And so the work is not in the striving. It is in the softening. You don't need more effort. You need more trust. More quiet moments where you surrender into your new state like slipping into warm water. No resistance. No tension. Just being. A man once shared how he stopped trying to force belief. Every morning he sat quietly, not to beg for change, but to feel what it would be like if change had already come. He imagined waking up in his dream home, not the house itself, not the marble floors or the high ceilings, but the mood it would give him, the sense of ease when making his morning coffee, the hum of peace as he walked from room to room, the sound of birds outside his window, not because they mattered, but because they'd be there in that version of life. That's what he focused on, not the picture, but the feeling. And it came. Not overnight, not always smoothly, but it came. Because when you live from a state, life has no choice but to reflect it. Therefore I say unto you, what things soever ye desire, when ye pray, believe that ye receive them, and ye shall have them. Mark 11:24. Not believe you might receive them, not believe when they appear. Believe you have received now. That's the surrender. That's the secret. And when doubt comes, as it will, treat it gently. Don't argue with it. Don't wrestle it to the ground. Just see it for what it is. A flicker of an old self fading like steam from a mirror. Smile at it and return. Return to the feeling. It's okay to forget. It's okay to fall. There is no scoreboard in heaven, only persistence. You are not falling behind. You are awakening slowly, surely, beautifully. The outer world will catch up to your inner world when you stop needing it to. This is the paradox. When you no longer need it, you've already claimed it. You can exhale now. There is no one to impress, no final test, no perfect visualization required. There is only this moment, this breath, and your choice to dwell in the end with peace in your chest and rest in your bones. So tonight, don't try so hard. Don't strain to get it right. Just let the new version of you rise from within. Fall asleep in that version's arms. Let it cradle your imagination until you no longer remember a time when you were separate from it. Because the truth is, you never were.